Very important medical disclaimer. Information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment before undertaking a new health regimen. Welcome to the Holistic Health Explained podcast. I'm your host, Shantae Fox, and my guest for today's episode is Al, founder and CEO of Chronic Wellness. As a trauma support specialist, wellness coach, Reiki master teacher, and Theta provider, Al has helped many clients and students deeply relax, release what is no longer serving them, and receive the new truth about who they really are, not the trauma they've encountered or who the world told them to be. Al has over 16 years of professional experience in trauma-informed care, wellness, and education. She also has a bachelor's degree in sociology, master's in public administration, and many certifications in wellness. Welcome to the show, Al.
Thank you so much, Shantae. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you here. We just met about a month ago, and you introduced me to a therapy I had not heard of before, Theta healing. And that's the topic we're going to dive into today and learn a little bit more for our listeners. But before we get into that, I got to ask you my icebreaker question. Can you please share a fun fact or something that not many people know about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I am an adrenaline junkie, and I've done a whole lot of, parasailing, some skydiving, zip lining, different things. I'll tell you though, the scariest, most fun thing I ever did was bungee jumping in New Zealand.
Wow.
Highly recommend.
What did you jump out of or from?
Honestly, there was a couple of like really beautiful Maori men, and they kind of had built this tower, and then they raise you up so slowly. So it's so nerve-wracking. And then when you're at the top of this really tall, like human-made tower, they tell you, okay, 3, 2, 1, fall. And it's so scary and also so amazing.
I don't know if I could actually do it. I'm not an adrenaline junkie, so we'll just say that.
Fair.
I did mention in another podcast episode about me getting talked into zip lining, so that's the most I've done so far.
Amazing.
But I did have fun when I did it. Once I got past my fears, it was a good time. So
awesome.
Yeah, got to do that sometimes, I guess.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. So before we get into what is Theta healing, can you tell us how your background in trauma support and Reiki led you into learning about Theta healing, or were you introduced to it in some other form?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in 2017, I started working a lot with my own energy healer, and we worked a lot together for 2 years. And then I started taking Reiki classes, Reiki 1 and 2, I took several times, Reiki master courses, I took several times. And in my second Reiki master course with this particular healer, he introduced me to Theta healing as a supplemental material within the Reiki master class. And oh my goodness, it was life-changing. And so, I read a book all about it and practiced what I could practice without being a practitioner.
Okay.
And then became certified in 2021, the next year. And it has been mind-blowingly incredible.
Wow. Okay. So you already kind of diving into the energy work before getting introduced to that. Somebody was just mentioning, I think it was yesterday, about how Reiki is like the gateway.
It is. It's so often
Right?
the gateway.
Yeah, to all of these other wonderful things that are out there.
And a lot of us joke about that. And yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I do too. That's what I really attribute Sozo Healing House being here because of Reiki.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm a believer. So for our listeners who may not, or who are listening, who may not have ever heard of Theta healing, and we're learning about this for the first time today, can you explain what it is and how does it work?
Absolutely. So Theta healing comes from the Theta Healing Institute of Knowledge.
Okay.
It's based out of Montana, and the founder is Viana Steibel, and it is absolutely fascinating. And so Theta, uses the theta brainwaves.
Okay.
And those are brainwaves that hypnotherapists use, for
Okay.
example,
Mm-hmm.
right? So right now, we're just kind of chatting. We're using beta brainwaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reiki is measured on scientific instruments as the alpha brainwaves. Get super relaxed, all of those lists and like kind of overactive thoughts. What do we have to do? Type of thing, kind of calm down. And then dropping one step lower into even slower brainwaves are theta brainwaves. And that is when your mind is awake, but your body's asleep. So think, Shantae, like when you first wake up in the morning or right when you're falling asleep at night, right? The mind is awake, the body's asleep. Can you resonate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So theta healing uses those brain waves and it allows us to tap deeply into our subconscious.
Okay.
We know that only 5% of our brain is working on a conscious level, and the other 95% is subconscious. We also know through science that we create our reality with our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So theta healing helps us look at our thinking patterns. We look at our core level, so us here and now. We also look at our genetic level. If you go study epigenetics or ancestral trauma, if you're not familiar, we see the importance of looking at belief systems passed on to us from ancestors and living family members, right?
Right. Okay.
Then we look at the historic level. So if you're working with a woman, you're looking at, her mother, her maternal grandmother, and so forth and so on. And if you're working with a male, then you're doing the same thing with working on his father and his paternal grandfather and so on and so forth. And when I'm working with people that don't identify with gender or that identify with all genders, I work in both paradigms.
Okay.
Lastly, we look at beliefs on a soul level. And the beliefs on the soul level are if you believe in past lives or future lives or the multiverse, or kind of more of a traditional perspective of looking at life before Earth, Earth, and life after Earth. What do the belief systems entail for a whole soul?
Right.
And how do those belief systems benefit your life or cause detriment? And it is so amazing, this modality.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you did mention in there a little bit about hypnotherapy, kind of using those same brain waves with theta healing, accessing and working with the subconscious mind, right? How do you compare it to hypnotherapy? What differentiates it from?
Absolutely. So with theta healing, there's a particular meditation, okay? And the meditation goes through 7 levels. And when we get to the 7th level of that meditation, we are able to commune from the highest brain waves with theta in the highest vibration of love and love only, right?
Okay.
So we would start looking at the 7 levels of existence written within theta. And I highly resonate with all of his stuff personally and professionally. So like this is just me really giving it a shout out for all that it's done for me and students and clients over the years. So the first level we'd be looking at are like minerals, rocks, crystals, how they benefit us.
Okay.
Then we'd be looking at plants, we'd be looking at trees, flowers, right? And then we'd be going into the here and now of humans and animals. Shout out to my dogs, they're the best.
Right.
Then in the 4th realm of existence, we would be looking at spirits, spirit guides, ancestors. And then we'd move up into the 5th plane, which is the belief in theta is that all ascended masters work together in love and harmony. So if you're Muslim, you'd be working with Allah probably. If you're Buddhist, you'd likely be working with Buddha. You might be working with the divine feminine, the divine masculine, Jesus Christ, whatever or whoever your higher power is, right?
Okay.
Then we would move into the 6th plane of existence, which are all the laws of the universe. The laws created to support us, not to hold us back, of course. So we often think about, the law of sound or the law of cover or the law of gravity, but there's also like the laws of compassion or the laws of justice, so on and so forth. And lastly, we would move into the 7th realm of existence. And that is where the creator of all that is, love and love only resides. So we go through that meditation. And then when we're in that 7th realm of existence, I, as the witness, the observer, the space holder, will hold space for the client in session to be able to help them commune with their higher power so that they can stay in the theta brainwaves, if that makes any sense. Sometimes talking out loud can distract them. And then we will look at releasing belief systems or resolving them that are no longer serving them, and rewiring the brain through the theta brainwaves to receive new truths. And the point is to better our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual self, to develop higher vibration relationships, to improve our finances, get that new job, what have you.
Okay. Okay. So you just kind of mentioned that, theta healing aims to access the subconscious mind to address beliefs that we may have inherited
Yeah.
or acquired through past experiences, right? How exactly do you help clients identify those limiting beliefs during the process?
Absolutely. And that's something that we do at the beginning, right?
Okay.
And so we'll talk about, what are some of the goals or what are some of the barriers that the client knows that they're experiencing,
Okay.
right? So I've worked with people who are looking for romantic love, seeking to call on their soulmate. And so through conversation, through me asking questions and maintaining a calm environment, no judgment, just simply questions, right? Then we're able to determine, hey, this is something I would like to receive. Oh, wait a second. Now that I think deeply about it, this has been my experience, and I believe this is why. So then we'll use something called muscle testing to determine if that's a belief on the core, genetic, historic, or soul level, or a mix, right?
Okay.
And then we're able to use that sway testing, that muscle testing before and after. So we're able to see this is what's happening right now, go through the meditation, and then this is the new truth I received. Or if I didn't receive it, what are some limiting beliefs that I need to clear first before getting there? And we would do that through something called digging exercises. So it's very gentle through conversation and then very gentle meditation. And so, for instance, somebody might have a subconscious belief of, I'm not worthy of love and belonging. And so maybe that's why they're not calling in their soulmate, right? So then when they're able to rewire the belief system of, I'm worthy of love and belonging, they're more likely to attract somebody who also knows they're worthy of love and belonging and have a relationship kind of that's a lot more positive or more healthy, for example.
Okay. Okay. Well, my next question was going to actually be, can you walk us through what happens during a typical session? So it kind of sounds like you just walked us through that just a little bit. Is there any more to it as far as like how the structure goes or what people can expect when they come in for a session?
Well, I always ask, hey, if I come in the most comfortable clothes, you can leave your shoes on or not, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
This isn't going to be like Reiki where we're using a table. We're just each going to use a chair, but a very comfortable one. And then the only thing that I ask is clients come super hydrated because this theta healing will not work and give us accurate results unless we're uber hydrated.
Okay.
And so we will test if they're hydrated enough through muscle testing when they get here. But I always tell them, please hydrate so much the day of, the day before, the day before that, so that you're able to receive these things.
Okay. Perfect. And then what happens at the end of the session? Is there, some discussion that happens on what was brought up? And um, is there a certain number of sessions that somebody needs to go through in order to achieve, the goal of the day? Or is it just based on the individual and how open or how much they are able to receive?
Last one, yes. It's really based on the individual, on their needs, on their desires, the intentions that they create, and how often that they would like to come back, and what other limiting belief systems they might want to look for, and other, belief systems that are going to benefit them that they would like to come into, right? Now, sometimes we can have a life-altering event, a traumatic event, and so on and so forth, collectively, individually within our family. So we may need to come back and again assess some of the belief systems to make sure that those have stayed in when there's been, a big occurrence that is not beneficial to our life moving forward.
Okay.
So after the session, people that would like to talk, process, answer questions, ask questions or share their experience, and I hold space and absolutely have them share. And if they'd rather not, that's great too.
Okay.
And of course, the muscle testing is done after as well to see which beliefs they were able to receive. And then I always invite them to take some notes so they don't forget, because when we're in theta brainwaves, we think we're going to remember everything, but we don't because we're in that subconscious, right?
Right.
And I invite them to write down what it is that they are receiving versus what it is that they released, because we don't want to recreate what was released.
Right. Yeah. And can you work on multiple beliefs during one session, or is it better to say, okay, let's focus on this one limiting belief this session, we'll come back and work on the next one. Or is
That's
that
a great question.
How does that work?
I typically, because sometimes people have a long list, and sometimes they come in with one thing. And so, of course, if they come in with one thing and one thing only, that's fantastic.
Right.
And we don't want to do too much at once and oversaturate our system, right?
Right.
Because this is all about pulling the consciousness into the state of love and love only. And while that's so deeply healing, we're also in our human body. And so I typically have 3 beliefs that we look at and no more than that, so that they're not too overwhelmed. And oftentimes, if they have one belief that they would like to change and I ask them some questions, they realize, oh, actually, there might be 1 or 2 more that are important to me now that we're talking.
Yeah. Okay. So you kind of help them figure out, kind of bring up some things.
Yeah. And not to project any of my own experiences or to tell them what they need, because that's none of my business. But by listening and participating in active listening, right? Then there may be something, and I say, does this resonate with you? Would you choose to work on this? And they can say yes or no.
Okay. So who is your ideal client? Like, who would benefit the most from a theta healing session?
Absolutely. I only work with adults by choice. The second you turn 18, I'm happy to see you. And of course, I just have people sign a waiver that says, hey, like, this is not replacement, of traditional like medical care or mental health care, right?
Okay.
And I love working with people when they are open and ready to change, right? Because if people are kind of closed off, this isn't going to benefit them. But when adults come in and they say, these are what I'm seeking, this is what I'm seeking to change, and these are the end results, the emotions I'd like to experience, or the outcome that I hope to receive, that's my ideal client.
Okay. When they're ready.
Yes.
Ready to make change.
Yes.
Gotcha. Are there any potential side effects or safety considerations that people should know about before trying theta healing?
I just, again, with the hydration, and then also like hydrating plenty after the session. And then, when we're in theta brainwaves, we're deeply relaxed. So I want to make sure, that the person is completely back into beta brainwaves before they go driving,
Right. Yeah. Okay. So nothing to worry about.
No, not at all.
Once they leave, and
it can't cause any harm. Theta healing cannot cause any harm, as long as your practitioner stays in integrity, and is seeking only to, bring in the things that the client is asking for. And I would never do something out of integrity with that, because we are very suggestible in those brain waves, like hypnotherapy, right? So it's very important to stay in that integrity.
Well, that leads me right into my last question for you, which is, does theta healing require a licensed practitioner? And do you have any recommendations on how our listeners can find a practitioner near them if they're not here local with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So theta healing does not require a license. It does require certifications, and there are many levels of certification.
Okay.
So, if they're local and they would like an in-person session, they can absolutely work with me. But Theta also works from a distance. And so anybody that has a phone or a computer that speaks English, I can work with them anywhere in the world.
Virtually.
And I do have a good friend. So we're in Tempe now. And I do have a good friend up in Paradise Valley that is bilingual with English and Spanish.
Okay.
So if somebody would prefer to work in Spanish virtually or at in person, then I can absolutely refer them to somebody that I know and trust that's also a Theta practitioner.
Okay. So from what we had talked about before, it sounds like this is something that's not widely practiced yet.
Yeah.
So it can be a little more difficult to find somebody who's properly trained.
It is. It's more niche, right? Like it's a lot easier to find somebody who's a Reiki practitioner, right? For example, because we lovingly and jokingly call it a gateway.
Yes.
And so theta healing is a lot more rare. It is based in Montana, and there are healers all throughout the world. However, it's just a bit more rare. And so if you would prefer an in-person session, you can always look at the Theta Healing Institute of Knowledge.
Okay.
And look at your geographic area and see who's closest to you in that certification.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that information. So this is such a fascinating topic because our brains are just so complex and capable of things beyond our, most of our comprehensions.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely.
Right. So it is just, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that you even just talked about is like right over my head. I'm just going to lay back and let you do what you do, because I don't understand it, but it works, right? So I want to thank you again for coming on the show today to educate us a bit on theta healing. I really hope someone listening today that needs a breakthrough or needs to break the chains of the past, and perhaps this could be a way to do that for them, right?
Absolutely.
In an
It's done
easy,
that.
gentle type of way.
Yeah, easy and gentle,
Yeah.
not forceful. And it's absolutely done that in my life. And I've watched that happen with students and clients that have been holding space for the last 4 years since this particular certification with Theta.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible to watch people soar. And it's all about them and their higher power.
Yeah.
I just get to, be their observer, their space holder,
Right.
and allow them to do what they're ready for and willing to do with their higher power.
Exactly.
And people that aren't really interested in spirituality or higher power, that language so much, can kind of look at it from more of a scientific perspective in regard to going and studying quantum mechanics and how quantum mechanics can open up this whole world if they're not as interested in a kind of a spiritual, energetic perspective.
Right. Okay. That's good to know. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
All I'd like to say is, that inherently all of us, every single person, is worthy of love and belonging.
Yes.
And it's important that we can take up space and allow ourselves to receive whatever type of healing that our soul is calling for, because we're worth it.
Yes.
We're worth it, and you're worth it. And whatever you do for yourself is going to ultimately benefit your friends, your family, your animals, your workplace, because your vibration and frequency will be higher. And so theirs will be also, whether they know it or not. So this is a really great way to heal individually and then spread that healing through the people in your life.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for leaving that with us today. Also, tell us how we can find you online. If you're on social media, you can tell us how to find you there. And I'll also include that in the notes so people can read that as well.
Perfect. Well, you can find my business is called Chronic Wellness, and you can find my website at chronicwellness.info.
Okay.
If you're into Instagram, you can find me at my handle is Chronic Wellness 2023.
Okay.
And I'm just excited to hear from anybody that has more questions or that would like to book a session. I'm happy to do 15-minute consultations for free so people can see if this is the right choice for them.
Okay, awesome. Yes, and you also do other services too, as far as your Reiki. You do teach Reiki as well.
I do.
So you have
yes.
a lot of other things that you can offer as well. And we're super excited to have you here at Social Healing House with us now as part of the family and providing services here with us. So thank you for being a part of our group here.
Thank you for having me. This is a high
Absolutely.
vibration place, and I'm grateful for the creation that you made.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you to our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Holistic Health Explained. I am your host, Shantae. Be well, my friends.